Hello and welcome to A Game of Two Halves. I'm your host Louis Holbrook, and in this episode we'll be delving into the future of sport. So let's take a sneak peek at what's to come in today's episode.
We'll be looking at the importance of analysis in modern football with the Cymru Premier club Pontypridd United. The Dragons' head of analysis AJ Shriram will provide insight into how they are looking for an extra edge. A look into the future of water polo in Wales will be provided by goalkeeper Tim Marshall and centre forward Dan Laxton, who highlight the need for funding in the game. And we'll delve into what's to come for hockey in Wales after a historic year for the sport in the country, competing in their first ever World Cup. Local club Cowbridge discussed the impact it could have on the next generation of players.
Later on in the show, we'll be joined by Pontypridd United Women's Media Officer Eloise Martin to discuss the importance of social media within the modern game. But before all of that, we take a look at today's Wales sporting headlines. In football, the English Football League will review the decision to abandon Cardiff City's match against Rotherham United on Saturday. The match was abandoned in the 47th minute due to the pitch being deemed unplayable following heavy rain at the New York Stadium. The Bluebirds were leading by a goal to nil after Jayden Philogene scored in the opening 5 minutes. Meanwhile, Swansea City manager Russell Martin says that their 2-0 victory over Bristol City at the weekend will help the Swans ahead of the South Wales derby on the 1st of April. Swansea recorded their first league win in 7 games and their first clean sheet since December. On to rugby now, and former captain Sam Warburton believes that Wales can reach the semi-finals of the 2023 World Cup despite finishing 5th in this year's Six Nations. Wales were beaten in 5 of their 6 fixtures, beating Italy, who finished 6th by 27 points to 19. In cricket, Glamorgan have returned the Welsh capital after their pre-season tour of Zimbabwe. It was a productive trip for Glamorgan, who won all 5 of their fixtures. In their final game, they defeated Northerns by 3 wickets, clinching the victory with the final ball. We now start today's show with a look at how a modern part of football off the pitch can have a huge influence on it. At Cymru Premier's side, Pontypridd United, they value the importance of analysis very highly. David Jones went to the USW Sport Park to speak to their head of analysis, AJ Shriram, to find out more.
The phrase fine margins is so often used in football. In a sport so competitive, every team are constantly searching for marginal gains that could affect the outcome of the game. Cymru Premier outfit Pontypridd United, along with a whole host of other clubs, believe that analysis is the way forward.
It's really important, especially because we can watch what's happening afterwards, and that gives you a good picture. Sometimes you can be a bit biased about what's happening, but then the analysis, when you're looking back on the video footage, I think it gives a clear picture of what exactly is happening in the game. I think it can be massive, especially if you have the resources like we do at USW. The partnership helps massively for Pontypridd. I think we provide analysis to our coaches and the manager at halftime. So any changes that we can make or to provide the team with a better picture of what's going on, I think that can be massive in games, especially if you're trailing. Then that can give them a good understanding of what's going on, and even if you're winning or drawing, it can give you an edge if you want to go on, kick on, and win the game.
Analysis is just one part of how football is modernising. AJ believes it is only recently it has become such a crucial tool in the game.
Yeah, I'd probably say maybe the last decade. I think it's grown massively, and the importance is quite massive. And I think with the number of modern coaches that are coming up now, I think they're more interested in what analysis is all about, and the improvements that we can bring into analysis in itself. I think it's going to be massive for the game.
How passionate are you about your role here at Ponty?
Oh, very passionate. Really, it's a great role, a great environment to be in. I think they're not just the team, but the coaching staff as well. And I think it's a club that's really together. And yeah, really enjoying it. And hopefully I can help the team to stay up in the league.
Pontypridd United have made a hugely positive start to Phase 2 of the Cymru Premier. AJ says being able to have some impact on their results is a feeling that is unmatched.
Massively rewarding, especially when something's come off. I remember where we were looking up areas where we can exploit the opposition in terms of set pieces, and we did try something out in one of the games, and it did come out well. So I think it's greatly rewarding when that happens. So it's about bringing those little improvements in performance where we can do better. So if that can give us an edge, I think that's massively rewarding and massively satisfying as an analyst.
Great Britain's male water polo team recently competed in their first international campaign in 9 years. as they entered the World Cup qualification event in Romania this month. The team haven't made an appearance together since the qualification rounds for the 2014 European Championships, with the sport undergoing massive numbers of restructures and reforms in that time. With the aim set now for the national teams to return to the international stage, we visited Cardiff International Pool to see more on what needs to be done to grow the game in Wales.
With water polo in Wales not quite at the level it once was, the objective sounds simple: to return the sport to what it used to be in the country. However, goalkeeper Tim Marshall says the task will require time.
I'd say in this country the standard was probably better leading up to the Olympics in 2012, because a lot of money was put towards the programme, and there was a very good group of young British players who made up the Olympic team. And I'd say since then the standard has probably dropped a little bit. GB have just relaunched a senior men's programme, and they're aware they're sort of starting from scratch. And it's going to take a few years to be back to the level where they were, but hopefully they'll be able to get there. But it'll be difficult without the sort of funding that a lot of the team sports had for 2012.
As Tim stated, in order to grow the game in Wales, funding is key. His teammate and captain, Dan Laxton, feels that water polo is too expensive in its current state.
The big barrier in this country is that swimming pools are insanely expensive, and it's very hard to get pool time even if you can pay for it. So as a club, we're paying £40 a month, something like that, for a couple of sessions a week, and that's one 1 hour session and 1.5 hour session per week. The rest of the training we have to do on our own, and really for a team that's playing in the top flight of British water polo, playing together twice a week is nowhere near enough. On the continent, you'd be playing twice a day. From a young age, they'll be playing every day. Our juniors get 1 or 2 sessions a week. So it's access to pool time, and access cheaply enough to pool time, that's the big thing that really holds us back.
Both Tim and Dan boasting years of experience in the sport, returning the game to its former standard in the country would mean a great deal to the pair.
Oh, it would be enormous. I mean, we, Tim and I, really care a lot about water polo in this country, particularly Wales, but Great Britain as a whole. We really care about the future of the sport here. We've enjoyed it so much over the last 25 years. We want that to be something that continues for a long time. It's a lot more expensive to play now than it was when we were coming through, and we've seen that be more of a barrier to players. When we're going away for weekends, some of the lads can't afford to come away for a weekend with the team, and that shouldn't be the case. So yeah, it would make a big difference if we could make it more affordable.
It's time now for our student spotlight, as I'm currently joined by a fellow third-year student here at the University of South Wales. Chris Donage is here to discuss with us the goal in the field of sports media. So Chris, what is it you're looking to do when you finish university?
That's a very complex question for me, but one of the biggest things that university has taught me is to be multi-skilled. So I've got plenty of options ahead of me, whether it's full-time work, freelance, start my own business. There's plenty of options ahead. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the future, but it's also very scary.
And so, look, as you say, looking towards the future, in terms of jobs that you have planned, is there anything that you've got plans for experience-wise?
Yeah, well, I've got about 500 different plans, Louis, if I'm being honest with you. But that's the part of the real charm of university, is it's being able to teach me a variety of skills. When I first came here, I thought I'd only be doing writing and maybe a bit of video work, but I've learned graphic design and elsewhere. So yeah, I'm really, really happy and excited where the future is going to go.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Chris. It's been a historic year for hockey in Wales, with the men's national team competing in their first ever World Cup. They finished 11th out of 15 teams, claiming their first ever World Cup win on penalties against France. Looking towards the future, the campaign could have a huge effect on hockey in Wales, and David Jones went to Cowbridge Junior Hockey Club to see the positive impact it could have on the sport's next generation.
When you put Wales and the World Cup in the same sentence, most people would think of the Football World Cup in Qatar. But they weren't the only Welsh team that have competed on the highest stage in the last calendar year. Wales were part of a Hockey World Cup for the very first time, and a huge step for the sport in the country. A local junior hockey club, Cowbridge, coach Jane Jones says the effect can be huge.
It's a massive achievement for Wales, and I think so many of our children here have been talking about the success, wanting to watch it, and have been really inspired by it. I think it's having a huge effect. One of the things that we've noticed here as a club is we've had a massive growth in boys. Historically, a few years ago, we were just a girls' club and we struggled to bring many boys in. we're now hoping to launch a boys team for the first time ever, which is a huge, just a reflection on how well the whole country is doing and getting behind hockey as a nation, which I think is brilliant.
The effect of a role model in sport cannot be underestimated. With Wales's international setting a great example, young hockey players have people to look up to. Jane says they can have a huge influence on the sport's next generation.
I think the role model is absolutely key. We've got a young player who was under 10, now under 12, and she has followed national team players and followed them on social media, gone to all their games, got the shirts, and it's just so focused on following, got up at all hours of the night to watch them because they're such role models and they aspire to be like them. And that's really great that we can see it at such a young level. And then that follows them all the way through then, and that's what they aspire to be. So yeah, role models, there's loads of them for our young players.
After a breakthrough year for the sport in Wales, Cowbridge Junior Hockey Club are looking to the future with great positivity.
Oh, there's been a huge amount of growth. We're having a growth in numbers, and we're having a growth in the level of skill because we've got loads more coaches involved, loads of help from parent volunteers because our numbers have increased so much, and we're trying to give extra sessions to help them with those sort of key skills to make them stronger players. So yeah, the growth in numbers and in skill has been massive over the last couple of years in particular. Hugely exciting time. We've just grown and grown. We're working with loads of other youth clubs. There's been so much growth in hockey across Wales and particularly South Wales with the youth hockey at the moment. And we're hoping the boys that we've had come into hockey over the last 2 years has been huge. We've had more boys than we've ever had before, and we keep getting more boys wanting to come, which is great. So yes, huge, massive growth.
I'm now joined in the studio by Pontypridd United Women's Media Officer Eloise Martin, who are one of the clubs in the Adran Premier League leading the way with their social media output. First of all, Eloise, what does your job role entail at Pontypridd?
So my job really is focused around the matchday media. So on the day of the game, I make sure I get there early, I film content of the pitch, players. During the game, actually live tweet, which is really good because obviously not all of the games are broadcast, so that's really nice for the fans. And then after the games I do post-match interviews, and then during the week we run a weekly programme, so I'll do features for the programme, I'll write up post-match reports, pre-match previews kind of things, and anything else that we feel needs covered. And I also deal with sort of media inquiries around the players and stuff. If the league need things filmed, they'll come to me, tell me what they want, and then I'll film the content with the girls. So yeah, that's kind of all of it.
Sorry, so considering the modernisation of the sport, how important would you say social media is to that?
Oh, it's massive. I think especially in women's sport, in sport as a whole, I think nowadays fans want 24/7 content, and the way they get that is social media. And I think social media has allowed clubs to do that, and I think it's the variety of things that you can do on social media is massive, and I think it's a really great way to engage fans.
And you said earlier on about the matchday programme at Pontypridd. Do you think that what you guys are doing there is leading the way for the rest of the Adran leagues?
Yeah, I'm not sure how many of the other teams do matchday programmes, but we've had great feedback, and their hard work, and that we've got an amazing player who does a lot of the graphics. So she's amazing, and that really it's about looking professional. I think that makes our product look great. But yeah, definitely one of the first, and it'd be great to see I know some of the other clubs do it, but it'd be great to get everyone sort of on that train.
And so for those who don't know, you're also a student at Cardiff as well. How invested would you say that you are with the club?
Massively. I think it's so nice, getting to know the girls now, and knowing them on a personal level, it really helps with the job, and I love it. I've always wanted to work with players firsthand, and personally I've invested a lot of time into it, but it's something that's been really rewarding as well as all the hard work.
We spoke earlier about the Adran leagues and the social media usage within the leagues. What would you say needs to be done to grow the leagues and to make them more popular within Welsh sport?
I think the trouble with women's football is it all comes down to funding. I always think that if we had funding to have specific people who are paid to work on the women's socials and stuff, the sky would be the limit. The amount of stuff we could do, and I think social media works so well for women's sport, and the kind of way that fans engage with women's sport is a lot of social media. And when I think of the fact that I don't always have time to watch my favourite team, but I'm always on social media following them, and I think especially in women's sport, that is the way to access the players. And I think it all comes down to funding, facilities, all of those different things that I really think, having access to software, people with different skills. I think there's loads of different things, but I think at the end of the day, it all comes down to investment.
It sounds like it's quite a full-on job. Is that the kind of thing that you'd want to go in after Pontypridd, or have you got your sights set on something else?
Yeah, so at the moment I'm kind of keeping my my options open. There's loads of, I think I'd love both different sides. I've always wanted to think my dream job would be working at a club like Chelsea or Man City, working in their media department, but I'm also open to going down the broadcast route as well. And I think what's great about Ponty is it's given me two sides of skills.
Well, thank you very much, Eloise. And now, as we near the end of this episode of A Game of Two Halves, let's take a sneak peek at what we have for you next time.
We'll be delving into the world of coaching, speaking to gymnastics coach Georgia Wink on the joys she finds from teaching children and how she uses that to fill the void when she suffered an injury. Football coach Jamie Phillips will share his story and experiences whilst being manager of the Cardiff City Ladies and how it affected his life outside of the game. And finally, we'll take a look behind the scenes at the making of an episode of A Game of Two Halves.
And that's all we have time for today on A Game of Two Halves. I've been your host, Louis Holbrook, and we hope you've enjoyed today's show.